In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at the order of operations with exponents. Okay, so powers involved in the order of operations. Now, in order to do this, we must, as I said, follow an order to do these operations. Now, that order we're going to follow is BEDMAS, where B stands for brackets, E stands for exponents, D stands for division, M stands for multiplication, A stands for addition, and S stands for subtraction. Now, we use this order of operation anytime we don't have any algebra, and we go on the correct order. As soon as we have a variable and we're using algebra, sometimes, as we learned in previous units, we have to go the opposite of BEDMAS, and that is normally to isolate for my variable. We must go in the opposite of BEDMAS to isolate for that one variable, okay? But in this lesson, we're not going to have any variables. So let's start with my very first example. We have example 1 is going to be 3 minus 3 squared. Okay, so let's start off here. We look at brackets. Are there any brackets? There are no brackets. So next we're going to go to exponents. What exponent do I have? I'm saying 3 squared. So I look at this here. There's no brackets around this negative and 3, so this 3 is only squared. The negative is not squared. So I'm going to have 3 minus 3 squared is the same as 3 times 3. So this is going to be the same thing as 3 minus 9, which gives me negative 6 as an answer. Let's try a second one here. My second one is going to be 12 squared plus 5 squared. Okay. So once again, we're going to look for brackets. Are there any brackets? There are no brackets. So next we're going to look at exponents. I have two exponents here. I have this 12 being squared, and I have the 5 being squared. So in this case here, I'm going to end up having 12 squared is 144, plus 5 squared is going to be the same thing as 25. So now when I add these together, 144 plus 25, that's going to give me 169. We're going to look at one more example. Let's try this one here. This one will have brackets. We're going to have 2, and then I'm going to have 8 minus 3, and that's going to be squared. So if you remember, anything in brackets must be squared. Okay? So first we're going to do the brackets. If I look at my brackets, we have to do the order of operation first because B stands for brackets. There are brackets. We're going to do that first. So I'm going to have 2, and then I'm going to have 8 minus 3 is 5. Now we're going to square the 5. Next we have exponents. Where's my exponents? It's right there. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to have 2 multiplied by 25. Now that my exponents are done, I'm going to look for division. Is there any division? There is no division. Next I'm going to look at multiplication. Is there any multiplication? Yes, there is. 2 times 25 is 50. Now we are done all of my operations, and that is going to be my answer. Let's take a look at my third example. For this one here, I'm going to have 7 minus 5 all to the power of 3 divided by 4. So once again, we're going to start off with my brackets. What is in brackets? Well, I have 7 minus 5, so I must do that first. So 7 minus 5 is the same as 2. So we're going to have 2 to the power of 3. And we're going to divide that by 4. Okay. Now I must look at my exponents. Next is E, exponents. Oh, I have an exponent there. 2 to the power of 3 is 2 times 2 times 2 divided by 4. 2 times 2 times 2 is going to be 8 divided by 4. Okay, so now we did my exponents. Now we must do my division. Division here, I have 8 divided by 4, and there is a division. So that's going to give me 2. Now there's no other operations left, so I am done. So now let's look at number 4. In number 4, we have something a little bit more complicated here. We're going to have 8, that I'm going to have in brackets, 2 cubed minus 3 squared. And we're going to divide this all by 2, bracket, 3 cubed minus 5 squared, and this is all going to be squared. So there's quite a bit happening here, but we're just going to follow BEDMAS nice and slowly. So first let's do what's in the brackets. So I have 2 sets of brackets. I could choose whichever one I want to simplify first. I'm just going to work left to right with the brackets. So here I'm going to have 8. And I'm going to first focus on this brackets here. Now inside this brackets I have operations. Now in there I must look at what's first to do in this bracket. Well, I have exponents. So I must do the exponents first. So in this case, I'm going to have 2 to the power of 3. 2 to the power of 3 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2. Now we're going to have 3 squared, which is the same as 3 times 3. Okay? Now all of this is going to be divided by 2. And I'm going to look at this brackets here now and expand out this brackets. So let's solve those brackets. Well, I have exponents in that bracket, so inside this bracket, I must do my exponents first. So that's going to give me 3 times 3 times 3 minus 5 times 5. Now if we notice, we don't put this negative square the negative because it's only the 5 that is being squared, not the negative. So we're going to go minus 5 times 5 because I need to put both of these in brackets in order to square the negative as well. Okay, and then this is all squared. Alright, so let's continue this here. We have 8. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Minus 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now we're going to divide this. I have a 2. We have 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. 5 times 5 is 25. We're subtracting those. There's a 2. And that's squared. Okay? So now, we're going to continue finishing off my brackets. So 8 is not inside the brackets. 8 minus 9 is negative 1. Is negative 1. Now we have divided by 2. Now 27 minus 25 is going to be 2. Positive 2. And that's going to be squared. So now that all the brackets are done, we can move on to the next thing. We're done everything in the brackets, so we're going to look at exponents again. Are there any exponents? Ah, yes, there's an exponent here. So now I must do my exponent. So when we do that exponent, we're going to end up getting 2 squared is 4. Multiplied by 2, divided by 8 minus 1. Okay, so now we're going to look at our next operation here, and we go to division. Is there a division? Yes, we do. We have negative 1 divided by 2. So in this case here, we're going to have 8. Negative 1 divided by 2 is 0.5, and that's going to be a negative. And then I have to multiply by 4. Okay? So let's continue this here. What is 8 times negative 0.5? 8 multiplied by negative 0.5 is going to be negative 4 multiplied by 4. Now, negative 4 times negative 4 is going to give me negative 16. A common mistake that students might do is here they might go 8 times 1 and then 2 times 4 and go negative 8 divided by 8 to get an answer of 1. But we have to follow our order of operations. And really, it is this is our division, but this, so this divides that, and then we go on that way. Okay? So let's try number 5 here. And here we go. So I'm going to have, in parentheses, big parentheses, negative 6 squared plus 10. And I'm going to have negative 5 cubed. And we're going to have plus 2 to the power of 7. And that's going to be in brackets and big parentheses squared. All right. So once again, I have to follow BEDMAS. All right. So here we go. Number 1. We have to do what's in brackets. So I have a big brackets here. Okay, everything in those brackets must be done first. So we first must do everything in these big brackets here. So that's all of that. Now, before we even get to all of that, I must first do everything in these smaller brackets right here. So this part here must be done first. Okay? So let's do that part there first, because I have a brackets within the brackets. So now I have, looking at my brackets there, I'm going to look at exponents. Here I have -5 cubed. So let's write that out. That's -5 times 5 times 5. Plus, because if we notice, there's no brackets around the negative and 5 before it's cubed. So it's only the 5 that's cubed, not that's cubed there. So it's only the 5 that's cubed and nothing else. Okay? Then we have to go plus, and we're going to have 2 to the power of 7. So it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 times 2. Bracket. Okay? Now get our parentheses squared. I'm going to have 10 plus -6 squared and parentheses. Okay, so now let's look at this here. We're going to have 5 times 5 times 5 is 125, -125 plus, and we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's going to give me 128. Oh, put these brackets here, not parentheses. And then we have to square this. So now we're done all my exponents. Now we can move on to our next operation. Is there any multiplication or division? Nope. Is there any addition or subtraction? Yes, we have an addition and subtraction here. So we're adding a negative and a positive. So we're going to have -6 squared plus 10. And then here we have -125 plus 128 is going to give me 3 positive. Then all this will have to be squared. Now we're going to have to look at my next part. We're done all this first brackets here that was green. Now we're working on this part here, all the yellow. Well, in that yellow, I have, once again, exponents. So I'm going to do my exponents. That's -6 squared is -36. Because the negative's not squared here, only the 6. Okay? Now I'm going to go plus 10 times 3. Okay? And that's all going to be squared. So now we must do, we're done with exponents. Is there any division? No. Is there any multiplication left? No. Oh, yep, there is a multiplication right there. So I'm going to have -36 plus 30. Okay? Now we're done our multiplication. Is there an addition? There is an addition or a subtraction. So in this case here, I'm going to have -36 plus 30 is going to be -6, and we have to square it. Now we could do our only last option left, which is squaring, and it's squaring everything here is in the brackets, including the negative, so the negative must be squared as well. So this is like saying -6 multiplied by -6, which is going to give me 36 as an answer. Okay? Now let's look at our very last question. Our very last question is this here. So I'm going to write out BEDMAS again, so we know what to follow. And my very last question is going to be number 6. We're going to have a big parentheses. Then it's going to be -4 to the power of 4 plus 3 to the 5. Okay? And I'm going to subtract 6 squared divided by -12. And that's going to be all to the power of 3. Okay, so let's start here. Brackets. Well, I have little brackets inside here. So this is, we have the big brackets, but first we have to go in our most specific bracket. That's going to be that part right there that I underline. Now in that brackets, what do we have? Well, I have exponents, so I must do those exponents in this bracket first. So let's do that bracket. I'm going to get bracket. What's -4 to the power of 4? Well, 4 squared is 16. And then we have 16, another 16, so that's 4 fours. 4 times 4 is 16, and then 4 times 4 is 16, then 16 times 16 is going to give me negative 256. Okay? Now we're going to have 3 to the power of 5, or 3 to the power of 5, well, 3 times 3, that's 2 3s, is 9. 3 times 3, that's another 2 3s, is 9. Multiply those together, that is 81. Now we only have 1 3 left, and so then times 3 is 243. And we have done these before, so that's going to be 243. Okay, now we're going to minus 6 squared divided by 12, and that's a negative 12. And this is all going to be cubed. So we're going to still continue our order of operations. We're still in this bracket, so now I must do the operation there. I have negative 256 plus 243. There's no more division left, no more multiplication, but there is an adding and subtracting. So let's get that done. So I'm going to have 256 minus 243 is going to be negative 13. Now we want to minus 6 squared, and we have to divide by negative 12. And then we're going to cube this all. Okay, so negative 13, good, good, good. What's left? Oh, we have an exponent. There is an exponent there. We have to do that exponent. So, once again in brackets, negative 13 minus 6 squared is going to be 36. This negative here is not being squared, so we don't turn to a positive because there's no brackets around that negative with the 6. And then we're going to divide it by negative 12. And then that's going to give me 3. So now, let's look here. Exponents done. Division. Is there a division? Ah, yes, we have a division right here. So we're going to do that next. So I'm going to get negative 13. And negative 36 divided by negative 12 is going to give me positive 3. Then we're going to cube that. Now we do our last one here. We have negative 13 plus 3 will give me negative 10. Because our last thing to do is adding and subtracting. There was no multiplication, so we had to do an adding and subtracting, and then we're going to cube that. Okay? Well, this here, the negative's inside the bracket next to the 10. There's a bracket between the cubed, or the exponent, and our base number, so that means we have to include that negative as well, because it's also inside the bracket. So here, this is going to be negative 10, multiplied by negative 10, multiplied by negative 10. What does that give me? Well, this is going to give me 100, 1,000, so that's negative 1,000 is my answer.